Okay, so moving on, the next part on our programme is our first debate, which is going to be around procurement and supply chain management. So I need to ask our panellists to come up and join us. So we have Rob Scharff, Head of Procurement at Allseas. Philip Bracker, who's on the programme, couldn't actually make it. He had an illness, but Francesco Leboeuf from D'Amico is going to step in. Where's Francesco? Where's Francesco? I saw him. He's disappeared. I'm going to have to go and find him. And then we have Henning Wegner. Come on, Henning, join us. Susan, do you want to come back on the panel? If I see Francesco, I'll perhaps he's having coffee. Yeah, and this is a chance for you to get involved as well and ask the panels, or indeed make any comments or observations. There are a couple of things that Irene and Susan were talking about, which I think we should pick up, and I'd like to ask the panel about. But to sort of set the scene a little bit and to talk about where we are with procurement and purchasing, perhaps I can ask Henning, Rob, for you to just sort of say how you see the landscape at this time. Oh, suddenly louder. Yeah.
They work, right? Okay. I think we have to reconsider our strategies because of all the tariffs, right? We get now.
All the
tariffs.
Right.
Mr. Trump. No, I mean, it's only joking, of course. I think I saw that the stock market went up yesterday with almost 2,500 points, so it's quite interesting. Now, I think the strategies we've been considering over the past years by optimizing and automating procurement processes with all the changes that we have now, the war going on in the Middle East, the tariffs, the recovery of COVID-19, shortage of materials, and let's say CSRD and CSDDD. I think all these new, let's say, regulations that they impose on the industry are very challenging. What do you think, Henning?
I think I agree with what you're saying. What we face is that we are moving a little bit away from procurement, and we have a lot of planning to do, right? So where maybe the focus should be, we can't do it. We can't focus too much on it because the planning is getting more and more complicated as well, due to several reasons of what you said. So it's really, it's not just the buying job anymore, but the, let's say, logistics planner or supply chain manager.
It's more fun, right? Because you have to deal with all these challenges. Some of them come very abrupt, and like Irene was telling, I think the knowledge that we need in the industry is lagging, also with suppliers. And I mean, your internal customer, the stakeholders, still expect that you can just pick up the phone and arrange things. But of course, practice is completely different. And as we did, let's say, focus on automation and contracts in place, all these lead times changed. So basically, you can start all over again with your plans. And I think that's the fun of our job. But yes, we need a holistic approach, and we need to continuously change and adopt. And I think that one of the solutions might be to have a even more intense relationship with your suppliers and have few suppliers so you can cooperate better. That's my idea.
Yeah, I second all that. But what I also think is very important is that we attach or get closer to our crew. So a lot of shipping companies actually do procurement from hand to mouth, where now it's even more important that you actually involve the crew when you sit down with them and they know exactly what has to be overhauled within a certain year. So this is something that you can actually plan ahead, and then you can you can make better decisions on that, and maybe have a little more longer lead times for that as well.
No, I agree with that. I think, I mean, current programs of course, help us a lot. It's just that you can have the technology, but you also need the mindset on board.
Absolutely.
To actually do that.
Yeah.
Yes, you've raised a couple of points there that came from questions, particularly the buyer-supplier relationship. We've been talking about that in IMPA for many years and the partnership approach, but there is some feedback perhaps from the suppliers that, you know, it's getting harder and harder to build those relationships from the supplier perspective. So how are you improving these relationships? What can we do here?
I mean, one of the most important suppliers we have, simply because there's only one, it's a Norwegian company, and they asked our company to provide feedback on their, let's say, on their performance. So I was told that I was going to make a presentation for 3 of the senior managers in the company. Turned out to be about 35 managers for the presentation, and it was, I mean, the questions they put up was, how do we become a better supplier or a better partner? How can we be more proactive? How can we communicate better? I mean, this company is providing the control systems for our ships. We have dynamic positioned ships, so it's, yeah, for us it's the main part of the ship basically. And what they were facing, same as said before, to find skilled engineers for their, let's say, for their systems. That's one of the main challenges I face. What I also learned when I was making a business case in the organization is that many companies are organized very functionally, so they either have a mechanic department or they have a control department, but to find people that are understanding the whole system is very difficult.
Henning?
Yeah, sorry, can you start from the question?
The buyer-supplier relationship, where is it in today's environment?
Yeah, we term it supplier engagement, but of course for the suppliers then, I guess, I mean, we are the buyers, obviously. We can't be best friends with everybody. I think this is clear, right? And we want to stay flexible, but of course we want to also be best with some people, right? So we have some suppliers where we have very good relationships, very specific relationships maybe, and we are always interested in bringing them to the next level, to a professional level, right? Because it can also go the wrong way, and then you end up with maybe like a toxic relationship where you're too dependent, or maybe the supplier is really dependent on you as a buyer. I just had this recently with a Chinese chip chandler who started out, and then they told us the revenue from last year, and then we looked and we thought, oh crap, we are accounting for 2/3. This can't be healthy for them.
Sorry, Henning. Francesco, please. Yes, good morning. Welcome. Join us. Henning, yeah, thank you.
So it's important to stay professional, to look at other factors than simply the price, or knocking on our door and saying, oh, can we do more business, right? I mean, we have to have more than just the product, so to say. And there's all kinds of ways. We have some suppliers where we start now with, or we are already doing this, but we also want to do it more often, to have mutual KPIs, maybe regular calls. And of course, it's very important that they give us the service orientation that we need. So with one big supplier for spare parts, I think that's as much as I should say, we had contact with so many different people from the organization, and then you don't know who to contact at what point, right? And so we of course prefer if we have a designated PIC, and then we can build on this relationship. Sometimes we can have a call even without a specific case, but just to see where we stand. And we are also interested in knowing what we can do better, right? Because maybe this is the difference for the next urgent case to get faster service or the items faster. So, yeah, like I said, in the end, professional relationship, not toxic, and there's many ways to strengthen it, but you can't do it with everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, I would also say we're just a small company, so our strategy is definitely to sit down together with our key suppliers at least once or twice a year and go through whatever it is that it is. And if we do have any mishaps, it's a question of calling up immediately saying, why did this happen and how can we solve it in the future? And again, we're just a small company. We can't dictate what is going on. We kind of collaborate a lot.
Yeah. Francesco, we put you right on the spot. We're talking about buyer-supplier relationships. Have you any thoughts on how best managing those sort of issues?
Well, morning everyone. Sorry for the delay, but we are in the shipping. Shipping is running quite fast. We are running behind Microsoft Teams meetings every hour, every day. Okay, for what concern, I do think that the most important thing in the supply chain nowadays is to, let's say, make as transparent as possible all the activities that we are doing with our suppliers. Of course, from owner's perspective, ship management perspective, is very important to rely also on our vendor, of course, because there are many KPIs to follow up every day. We have many regulations to follow. So every day you must be ready to face any kind of issue. And the most important thing, in my opinion, is that reliability of the vendors must be always comply with, of course, owner's requirement. But on the same aspect, it's very important the transparency also in the requirement from owner's side, the ship management perspective. Let's say, to make the information as much as possible fluent and transparent with vendors, so that vendors, we have to work on, let's say, on feedback, either from our side as owners or from supplier side, giving feedback and receiving feedback every day. Nowadays, the shipping is going toward a very fast, let's say, environment. We have to comply with several regulations. We are, let's say, also having sometimes technical offices quite far from the owner side. Let's say everyone is settling this kind of ship management in India, as we did in D'Amico. So manage an office that is quite far from the headquarters is giving more challenges. So for this reason, the transparency is in the information, in the transactions, in the exchanging of all the relevant info with vendors is the most important and crucial area that we must focus on. Because we must rely on the suppliers. And the supplier needs to, let's say, rely also on our side.
Yeah. Just moving on a little bit, but picking up on something. Is there anybody that wants to butt in at this point and ask anything? Just put your hand up. We've got a microphone. If you want to ask the panel, just do that at any point. One of the things that Irene was saying, and we've talked about, is the skills gap generally within the industry. There's also challenge in recruiting people. I know, having had conversations with every one of you on the panel, that there's been issues in finding people. How are you overcoming those sorts of challenges? And, how do you see the landscape for recruiting and managing people, specifically in supply chain?
Yeah, I think in my company, since we are in the Netherlands, we of course, we want people to speak English, but we also prefer Dutch. The second requirement, getting people that also speak Dutch, is virtually impossible. And some of the suppliers that we work with are very local. So then if you have to communicate in English, it's kind of a challenge. So to find people is extremely difficult. To let them fit into your salary house, also very difficult. And I think, like Irene said before, the speaker before, that people want to do other work and they want to work from home. they want to work 4 days, sometimes even 3. And that doesn't really fit in our industry. That's what we have. I mean, I refuse to have a Teams meeting with one person at home and having 5 in the office. Then I say, okay, you either come to the office or you are excluded from this meeting because it doesn't work. Everybody's looking at the screen and you get a different interaction with the team. So that's what I face. Sometimes I hire people. I had one recently hired, 3 rounds of interviews, and then as he got his contract, he wrote a message to the company that he disagreed with our working from home policy, which is only 1 day, preferably none, and that he wanted to discuss that before he even started. So that's, he was Dutch, by the way. So.
But don't you think that actually he's right and maybe the company's wrong? Because
yes,
I think
I don't disagree with that, but I mean, you know, we have an owner. We are not we're not listed on any let's say we're not stock listed. So yeah, I mean, he might be right. On the other hand, I think that when we had COVID, I'm a lecturer in the university and I had to work with teams. That was the first time I saw people in pajamas or not having the screen on, or now yeah, we know all the jokes, right, that have been happening during Teams meetings. So I still think it's very effective to be in the same room with the engineer. If we want to be adding value to discussions as procurement, if you're online and you don't have an engineering background and you have to engage with engineers and you're also not in the room, I wish you a lot of luck, but it's going to be a kind of a difficult challenge to do, I think. But that's my personal opinion and the opinion of the boss of the company. So.
Henning.
Yeah, it's a different perspective thing, right? So, I mean, of course, let's say a lot of the younger people, maybe they enjoy if they can have a home office day, a remote working day or 2, and we've proven during COVID that it's possible, right? But then, of course, our main customer, internal customer, is the engineers, the technical guys, who just from my perspective or from what I can see, they have in our at Oldendorff they all have a seafaring background, and so they're used to not being at home, right? So they come to the office, so they don't do home office a lot. And so if they are in the office, then it is easier to, you know, turn around and talk to that person rather than using Teams to call them. And in the end, and this is, I think, most of us have in common, the seafarers, they are the ones making the money for us, right? We are just supporting them. We are just helping them do their job. They don't have home office. They don't even go home on the weekend. So if you have 1 or 2 home office days, that's great, good for you. And I think that's fine because we've proven that it works. But just remember who is, you know, bringing in the cash that pays your salary and your lunch and whatnot, right? So,
how do you think that we got the proof that it works? Because they could log in and have a Teams meeting. Do you think that works? Because I think many of the young people that we hire, they still need to learn a lot. And they learn from engaging with the engineers in the office and engaging with the people in the office. So I don't see how you can learn when you are in your own living room with your children around and all the other stuff. But that's, again, I understand. Yeah. From Steven's perspective, it's a bit old-fashioned, but...
I mean, if you just started out, then maybe you should come to the office for the first couple of months. Probably makes a lot of sense, right? To be there and to be with your trainer, to be with the stakeholders and whatnot. Yeah. What I meant is that during COVID, when we were not allowed to come to the office, we, in fact, didn't have too many new people, so everything worked. We proved it. We didn't have any major... mishaps or whatever, right? But yeah, of course, if you're new, you're learning, then you learn much better at the office. You're not going to learn alone in your bedroom, right?
I think we seem to have a slightly different problem because we seem to take the very skilled people from our vessels actually and ask them to come ashore. So then we suddenly find our ships without skilled people. So we have to upscale the people on the ships instead of ashore.
Yes, we see the same in the Netherlands. We have we're taking people to the office indeed, and then when we send people to ships, we use these agencies, and then they have all the papers, of course, But as we speak, there's an institute being started up in the Netherlands to provide additional training on top of just having the certificate ready and actually do something on board the ship as physical work.
Isn't it essential to have people from ship in the procurement department? Because when I talk to suppliers, they very often say that the level of understanding in the buying teams, in some cases, isn't there. They don't know enough about what they're buying.
No, I mean, I think that's actually true. But many years ago, after the war, of course, we moved to low-cost countries. So that meant that naval academies moved or closed down, and that, let's say, the people on board are different nationalities. They live in different countries, and they don't come to the office in West Europe. And with the more stricter right-wing governments that we get, we also don't allow them to get in anymore, right? In the Netherlands, we have a tradition of Chinese restaurants, and they are now going to close down because we don't allow Chinese cooks to come in the Netherlands anymore.
Right.
I would say on this, let's say, in my opinion, the most important thing is that we have to work on the training of the people. Of course, it's easier maybe to get people from vessels and put on shore in the office, but sometimes it's up to the case. In some management, for example, procurement is just taken like data entry users maybe. But it's important as well, also if you have people that are not, let's say, ex-chief engineers or ex-deck officers, to motivate people. You give motivation. After the COVID, we went through a very big changes, but as we said, the shipping is running quite fast. Now we have technologies that is giving us a big input because we can control everybody. Of course, we have several people that are willing to work from home, of course. In Italy, I can tell you about Italian side. The Italian mindset is more focused on to stay focused in the office, and people must control you whatever you are doing. They can shout at you whatever you are doing something not good. But of course, we changed a lot after the COVID because COVID pushed us to move forward. Let's say now we have technologies. Nowadays, we are going with the help of the AI toward new challenges, new changes. So we must follow also this kind of route because it is important to let's say, reinforce all these kind of activities that can help us going through. But in my opinion, training is the most important thing. Training and motivation, because people must be motivated, otherwise it's too difficult. Especially in those kind of situations like ship management is based in Mumbai, and you are based, the headquarter is in Rome. So you need to control your people over there. You cannot just give email, just like forwarding email and so on. No, you have to motivate people. You have to give goals, and they have to follow your goals. And you have to work on feedback, both sides, and vice versa. I'm giving feedback, and I'm receiving feedback of the team.
So as we draw to the last 5 or so minutes of this discussion, we talked about people, developing people, training, education. We talked about a lot of regulation. Itching to talk about sustainability. I have to hold back because I know, as I said earlier, that's going to be on our programme a bit later. But can you just tell us, what is the priority for procurement managers, the number one priority right now, in your opinion?
You mean on the topic you mentioned?
No, I'm hoping you say sustainability because I think you should, but you might not.
Yes, I am looking at that. We are looking at that indeed. But have you checked the requirements to work with digital product passports? Anybody in the room? I looked at it, but if you look at just a simple product, it's I wouldn't say insane, but it's virtually impossible to do that. I understand that we have to, let's say, make things more transparent, and that we are looking at reusing materials, which I think is excellent, and it might even be a very interesting negotiation point in the future, because you can look at products and you can decide which product has the most recyclable possibilities at the end, right? But there are ideas, and as from 2024, we should have implemented that already. But if you look at just a simple cooler or something like that, the amount of materials in there is unbelievable.
Well, yeah, we're gonna cover that this afternoon, and we're going to answer your question, I think.
Yes?
So, but okay, but on the top of the list, I mean, if the top 3 things for procurement
Getting the
managers,
right
what are
people.
they? So
Getting the right-
sustainability would be one. Okay, what else are on that top list?
Getting the right people in.
Getting right people.
Yeah, I would say definitely getting the right people in, because that's really a challenge.
I would say sustainability for sure is the hot topic of the agenda. We are having so many issues related to the sustainability nowadays, because let's say it's easy to talk about reporting for sustainability and so on, but then it's difficult to control this kind of topic, because let's say and I want to go back on the training of the people. You must have trained people in order to manage this kind of stuff. They need to know about what I mean when I talk about IHM inventory, what I mean when I talk about gas emission, and so ever.
And that is getting the right people in with the right education, or being able to educate them, because we are really being bombarded with all sorts of requirements these days. It's
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just following it. That's very interesting.
Do you need a microphone?
Yeah, I think I can manage.
Okay.
I think the topic just before, in respect to the customer and supplier relationship, perfectly fits into this question as well. At least this is, let's say, a single answer or a minor answer to that one. Why not make it, if you face challenges in regards to education, employees with the right expertise, etc., why not making use more of your suppliers? I mean, there is a hell of expertise within the suppliers.
I fully agree with that, and I'm starting an institute next month, which is going to do that. Yes.
In addition to that, I would say there is so many training possible by suppliers.
Yes.
And also one thing in respect to the customer and supplier relationship, what I faced in the recent years, I mean, it's just my very individual experience. Yeah, there is a certain reluctance. I don't do a finger point, but certain reluctance of, let's say, establishing a kind of real partnership for gaining, let's say, mutual benefits. I mean, if you face challenges, which we all do, and if you face challenges in your organization, and it's not about selling a single product. I mean, this product is nice, but the idea of selling a product and delivering a product is solving a problem, right? I mean, that's what it is about. And there might be more problems to it, let's say, in the whole environment of the organization. And then maybe spend more time. I can just address this to the audience. Spend just more time. It's difficult. I know. The FTEs, the amount of FTEs are reduced each and every year, but spend more time in evaluating the let's say, meta challenges, and evaluate how can suppliers may jump on and have kind of outsourcing, if you will. That's just my
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a super good point. And I think, we do that as well in my company, but it also depends whether you're a large company or a small company and how much time you have to all that. But in our company, for instance, we always make a point of going out to see products, and we make a point that the people who work for us, they actually see a ship, and they don't just go on board and visit it for a few hours. They need to go on board and sail with the ship, maybe for 14 days, 3 weeks, something like that. So they get to know the crew on board, they get to know what the machines are on board, they get to know how you load and discharge a vessel, and basically just have the feel of the ship and the crew on board.
Will the Netherlands Institute that you mentioned, Rob, will that actually bring in suppliers to do that sort of thing?
It's exactly what he said. I mean, I fully agree with him that we should involve the suppliers, because that's what the engineers are doing as well. I mean, an engineer is generally educated. I'm a marine engineer. I actually sailed, and I love my education, but we knew a lot of nothing, basically. So that meant that if we need special knowledge, we go to the supplier. So I'm actually doing what he says. We are setting up a procurement education, and we involve every month. We will go to a supplier with the group, and then we will do a case study, and we will write a report about it, and this is how they engage and learn with the supplier. So we will definitely exchange numbers for that. And if there's more people, please come.
Henning.
Yeah, maybe going back to the priorities from the procurement managers. It all ties together actually, because one of my priorities, or for us at Oldendorff Procurement, we try to look at the daily process, especially from our marine purchasers. We try to, because not always easy, and this is maybe something we'll talk about more later in the debate on software. We try to reduce unnecessary work steps, right? And the goal is that the job becomes a little bit more, gets more depth, and then enables everybody in this position to do exactly what was said, engage with the suppliers more deeply, take more time on a case, because right now it's really often, not always, but often more like an emergency room, right? So one patient after the other comes in. You don't have time to talk to them about their hobbies and stuff like this. So it's my focus is very process oriented. Reduce unnecessary steps, which we can't do on our own. It's a thing we have to do with our software providers, and it's not easy, right? But subsequently, we would benefit from being able to do all of this, trainings, networking, more IMPA conferences, right? So more drinking tonight up on the rooftop bar. So yeah, these are some of the challenges and priorities.
Building relationships, I think, yeah. Okay, well, that's concluding our opening debate, and thank you to the panel. If there is anybody else that wants to ask a question before we break for coffee, the panellists will be around, of course, today, and then we'll be picking up on some of these subjects and then building on the debate throughout the day. So you've got plenty of time to warm up and get ready for that. But otherwise, I'd like to say thank you to Francesco, Susan, Rob and Henning. Thank you very much. So we are serving tea and coffee and some drinks just outside. We've built in a few breaks throughout the programme to stretch your legs and talk. So we come back just after 11:30. Yeah, just after. Thank you.